Welcome in to the Rockies Insider. I'm your Rockies Insider, Patrick Lyons, inside the vestibule. We'll call it the vestibule with Griffin Herring, the top left-handed pitching prospect for the Rockies in what's going to be a very fun conversation. If you happen to be watching this live on YouTube, go ahead and ask away on those questions. We'll get Griffin's point of view. So Griffin, thanks for joining me today on what was a busy day so far at the start of the Instructional League.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you're down there in Arizona. Have you spent a lot of time in Arizona? I know Yankees are more southeast, down in Tampa. LSU, I mean, you're playing your games in the SEC. So have you had a chance to enjoy the dry air that is Phoenix and Arizona?
Honestly, not too much. I did come down here in 2024 before the draft. So they had the draft combine at the Diamondback Stadium, which was cool to be able to get in there. And that was my first time in Phoenix. And then after the trade, they had us, me and Josh, come down to Arizona for 2 days before we headed up to Spokane.
Yeah, there's a period of time where I imagine if you weren't in the majors, you didn't get an opportunity to play at a big league ballpark. But I think a lot of that has changed. I imagine even when you were in high school with Perfect Game, you had opportunities to play at some big league ballparks, right?
Yeah, I definitely have. I've gotten pretty lucky, honestly. I got to throw a high school game against IMG in the new Globe Life Stadium, so that was pretty awesome. Got to throw some live at bats at Petco Park, and then threw in a perfect game event at the Rays Stadium as well. So it's been it's a cool time in baseball where younger guys are able to get out there and experience it early like that.
Obviously, you've got a lot more experience now down in the minor leagues, even at LSU, pitching in some bigger ballparks. But what was that jump like going from pitching in high school, your local fields that you grew up playing, for 4 years in varsity, to all of a sudden a big league ballpark where everything is a lot bigger?
It's cool. It's cool to see what it's like to be at the next level. I think I've had quite a bit of experience just with pitching in front of fans and that kind of realm. Just even through high school, the high school that I went to was a pretty premier high school. Probably sold out a stadium or two. We used to play high school games at places like DBU, Globe Life, stuff like that. Playoffs and 6A high school baseball in Texas gets pretty big, so I got kind of used to it from a younger age, I guess.
Yeah, Dallas, that whole area right there is one of those hotbeds for a lot of great minor league talent, big league talent. As you said, South Lake Carroll High School, home of the Dragons. You had a decorated career. In fact, you were the 2022 Dallas Morning News Player of the Year, where you put up video game numbers. I'll say some of those stats here in just a second, but you gave up so few runs that I imagine you might be able to remember like the 2 or 3 that you gave up that entire year. Can you even like picture those moments?
Yeah, I actually can. I think I gave up. We played a tournament in Southern California. We played against Orange Lutheran and a couple other teams, which was a really cool experience for high school for a high school team. But I think I gave up 2 runs there, and then I gave up 1 in my very last inning of high school baseball, which really made me a little bit upset at the time. But it's all right.
Yeah, a lot of good baseball down there in Grapevine, Texas. Just the numbers were ridiculous. 6-0 record, postseason games, 0.19 ERA. I mean, had a lot of really good experience. I'm curious how many former big leaguers came by or minor league guys came back to visit the high school. Former Rocky John Curtis is a South Lake Carroll High School Dragon, and then Ross Stripling, who mostly made his bones with the Dodgers, but believe it or not, people might not recall, he was actually drafted by the Rockies before
Oh
deciding
wow.
to go on to college right out of high school. What's that community like, and how often do those guys come back to visit?
It's awesome. We had a couple guys come back every once in a while. I never saw Ross Stripling, but it was definitely like just a very good culture. It's a very baseball oriented culture, and they expect a lot out of you. It's pretty much like state or bust, I would say, most years. So they created a great culture there. My head coach Larry Vucan, he does a great job. They're still got a lot of talent coming out of there. Just had a couple guys going to big D1 SEC schools, so I still try to keep up with them and just check in on the program, make sure it's looking good.
Yeah. And you go from one successful program with high expectations to another at LSU. For anyone that might not be aware, and maybe you can just speak from your own experience, but what is that recruiting process like where you're trying to do your thing as a senior in high school? Maybe some of that scouting began before that when you were a sophomore, junior. What was that like to allow you to end up at LSU?
My recruiting process honestly was very simple. I didn't love the idea of reaching out to a ton of schools and really having to do like a ton of calls and go to a bunch of different campuses. That wasn't really me. So my parents and I sat down and kind of narrowed it down to about 3 schools that I was interested in. Then I want to say the summer after 8th grade. And it was LSU, Vanderbilt, and Virginia. And sat down and I pursued those schools. And luckily, in the LSU recruiting coordinator at the time, Nolan Kane, saw me throw that summer. And I ended up going to a camp and getting offered in October of my freshman year of high school. So that was when I committed to LSU. Made honestly maybe like 5 phone calls to coaches total, and just went out to tournaments. Kind of high school baseball didn't really affect my recruitment, which is kind of weird to say, but my first pitch thrown as a high schooler was as an LSU commit.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, that's a good little fun fact there. Did that, again, as a young man who knew what you wanted to do, getting that piece off your plate, did that actually allow you to focus and get better versus, a lot of people might think, oh, well, that's the carrot at the end of the stick. Hey, got to play really well for 3-4 years, whatever it may be, to then get that scholarship. But you already had that out of the way. What was it there that was motivating you to continue to go above and beyond?
I think that especially as a younger kid like that, kind of putting that tag on yourself of like LSU commit or whatever, bigger D1 program that it is, or even just committing to any D1 program at that time, it kind of puts a little bit of pressure on you. Every time you go out there, that people are expecting a certain level that you're going to bring. And I think that's always what's pushed me, is just the expectation. Just trying to push myself hard in the weight room since I was a kid. Luckily I'm very blessed. My parents have allowed me to have access to nice facilities and things like that, where I was able to get a lot of help from a lot of different people. So it's just a culmination of everything, I think.
LSU, obviously a powerhouse in a lot of sports, specifically baseball, from head coach Jay Johnson all the way down. Rockies fans know Jaden Hill in the Rockies bullpen this year and a bit last year was an LSU Tiger, as was last year's draft pick Fidel Ulloa, also a Tiger. Have you had a chance to hold it over Fidel's head that you were drafted 1 round before him yet?
No. That kind of stuff kind of disappears once you get into the system. It's just, we're all just baseball players.
We'll talk about the trade here in a moment, but was it comforting at least to know that, okay, Josh was going to be with you as well, coming over in that deal from the Yankees, but also that, again, Fidel was someone that you had already known a bit from your time with LSU?
It was definitely nice. There's a lot of moving parts when something like that happens, and having a little time, me and Josh, I think after we had packed up at the field, we went and just got dinner together and kind of just sat down, and it was nice to have someone to process everything with. So we stayed together at the hotel in Arizona, stayed together in Spokane. So it really was nice to just have somebody close who understands the situation that you're in as well.
You cap off your 2024 season with a big win at the College World Series. Is that, and this might even be a silly question, does that rank as the best moment in your career so far?
I would probably say so. Those aren't too easy to come by, so you got to really cherish it. And I would say that 2023 team was pretty special. A couple of those guys are doing some pretty special things right now. So I was happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, and for anyone that doesn't follow college baseball, it's not a different sport, but it is a game in which you do need the entire team, maybe more so than at the big league level. Because you look at the 2024 roster, a lot of dudes, but then the 2023 roster, you've got the number 1 and number 2 overall pick in Paul Skenes and Dylan Cruz, and you really can't get any better than that. What was that like seeing those two teammates go 1 and 2?
I mean, it was unbelievable. We knew by the time that the draft came around that about where they were going to be, and obviously we'd seen what they'd done all season, and they deserved that. So honestly, it was no shocker seeing them go as high as they did, but seeing the work that they put in all year, and just like the ability to hold everybody else to the same standard that they were working at, and along with some of our other older guys on that team. Gavin Dugas and Kade Beloso, they just set that standard, and that's something that I think has stuck with me as well, going into my professional career and last year at LSU as well. It's a culture thing there, and I think it always has been.
An obvious great personal moment for you is the 2024 draft, getting selected there by the New York Yankees. What was that day like for you? What was the phone call like, and how great did that feel for you?
It was amazing. That's what you put in all the hours for. That's what you do all the work for. Long weekends, long road trips, everything like that. So just seeing your name up there, and getting kind of what you've been looking for the past couple of years, it was really really fulfilling.
Had the
So
Yankees reached
obviously a
out?
lot of work, but fulfilling in the moment.
Yeah. No, that's great. You had the whole family? Did you have a spread? Did you have a party?
We kind of held off on having any sort of like during draft party. I actually was just kind of up in my room, watching it myself as it went by. I was a draft eligible sophomore, so there was the question of going back or staying, and it was a little bit maybe in limbo for a little bit. I just wasn't sure, beforehand what was going to happen, but I think everything worked out exactly how it was supposed to.
Yeah, you definitely had things going in your favor in that way. I'm curious because, at the time, LSU, valued you as a reliever, and not as no knock on you, because 4 2/3 scoreless innings against Wake Forest in the College World Series certainly made that point that you had a ton of value. How much did the fact that the Yankees told you that they wanted you to be a starting pitcher helped convince you to say, you know what, now is the right time? I don't need to go back as a junior.
It definitely helped. In high school, I was a starter, and obviously, I would like to be a starter at the big league level. That's where I feel the most comfortable. And relieving in college was great too. It was really great experience. If that's what is necessary down the road, or whatever happens, I'll always hold on to that experience. But at the end of the day, starting is the premium, and that's what I was looking for at this level. So that was definitely a driving force. I was going to have the opportunity at LSU the next year, but pro ball is a little bit more of a guaranteed situation where you'll get the chance to figure things out, and maybe a little bit more trial and error if anything else. But it was definitely not an easy decision.
And we're starting to see a lot more guys, even in the Rockies organization, getting drafted out of the SEC and not spending a ton of time down in the minors there. It's almost like back when there was, 160 plus teams, short season A ball, rookie ball, all that. Players are developing now at the Division I level better than ever before, specifically and especially in the SEC. What were some of those environments like throughout that conference? And did it, feel like, man, I know this is college, but this feels like this is a pro level essentially?
There was definitely some big spots that I pitched in college. There's some amazing stadiums out there. Obviously, Alex Box. I'm going to be a little biased, but I think it's the best stadium in the SEC. The fans are electric, and it's not easy to pitch in front of that many fans for anybody. But when they're on your side, it helps a little bit. And then you go to Arkansas or Mississippi State, and there's 13,000 who all want you to give up a home run. So it's a little bit different pitching in maybe a little more hostile environment. But for me personally, typically kind of the way it's been since high school is the more people that are there, the more fired up I get, and usually leads to success. But I enjoy pitching in front of the big crowds. I have fun. I think it really pumps me up, and just a
How
good
was it to
time.
finally make that professional debut at the beginning of this year? Because you got shut down, which can be very common for a lot of college pitchers, and you've got to wait to make your debut. Is that just part of that process? And how exciting was it for you to finally, put on those pinstripes, as it were?
It was exciting. I didn't want to set too many expectations before the season. I hadn't started in a while, and I just kind of wanted to have some confidence in myself and trust that I'd done the necessary preparation in spring training. And really, it was with the Yankees. I started in Low A, so that is in Tampa, and they're currently playing. The Rays are playing in the Yankees spring training facility. So the home field that we were on was pretty much a backfield with like lights set up and a scoreboard. So in some ways it was a little bit like spring training 2.0. So it was a pretty easy, it's pretty easy to just blend right into it. And our lockers kind of just moved from one room to another. So it wasn't too big of a jump, but getting a little bit more of that team aspect and getting out there. I think that's one of the things that I've appreciated the most about professional baseball is just, you're with these guys 6 days a week for 8 to 10 hours. It's a lot. And you form some really special bonds. So been really enjoying that part of it.
Yeah, that was, and it still is a wild situation there in Tampa. So you were essentially in Tampa, in the same general vicinity, in the same facility as the Rockies were when they started their season. So lo and behold, you end up coming over, kind of one of those odd coincidences,
Yeah, I actually had no idea that they started off their season there. That is pretty crazy.
Yeah. So let's get to the big trade. July 25th, you, Josh Gross, going over to Colorado for Ryan McMahon. Talk me through what was the days leading up to it like, and then the final phone call saying, "Hey, we got to send you out to Denver, so to speak."
Well, we had just started a home series in Hudson Valley, which is about an hour and a half outside of New York City. I'd gone up there about a month or so prior, I want to say. And so I got a couple texts from some different people kind of early in the day. I was starting the day that I got traded, so I wasn't going to the field until like 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And I started seeing some stuff on Twitter saying that I had been traded, and I wasn't really like getting any contact from anybody. So I was just kind of, you see stuff like that every once in a while. You just kind of try to ignore it. I was starting that day, so just tried to ignore it. And then a little bit later, ended up getting a call from our minor league director, and he told me that I wasn't going to start, but that everything wasn't finalized yet. So I was still in limbo a little bit. And by about 3:30, when I decided to go up to the field, I got a call from the assistant GM and let me know that it was finalized. And then some Rockies coordinators and Forbes called me and let me know kind of my travel details. And I was on a plane out of Newark to Arizona the next morning.
Man,
Packed up
that's
my
a
packed up my
whirlwind.
car and parked it at the facility. Got talking to some more Rockies people and got it shipped back home to Texas. So things moved quick. So me and Josh got in an Uber that next morning at about 6:30, and we're in Arizona by midday.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot going from I'm going to start to I'm not even on this team anymore. I mean, that's talk about complete opposites, right?
Yeah, no, it was a lot, but you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. It's at the end of the day, it is a business. So people have to make moves. People have to do what they think's best for their team, and sometimes you get moved around. It is what it is.
I'm curious if, again, being a part of that Yankees organization and other really highly successful teams, if that isn't kind of more of a topic of conversation between you and the guys of like, you know what, they're in it again as they always are, and they're always looking for big league talent. So I might be one of those trade chips. Is that, one of those topics that gets discussed about on off days or when the game is going by pretty slowly?
I wouldn't say it's something that's discussed super openly, like in maybe in the clubhouse or something. But I would say it's in the back of your mind a little bit. The closer you get to it, you start seeing, especially. I've really tried to avoid it, but Twitter, people will put you in mock trades, and your friends will send them.
Griffin, if you can hear me, you can always exit this link and then jump back in if it's totally frozen for you. If you've got a question and you're watching this live over on YouTube, feel free to go ahead, leave a comment, leave a question in the chat. If you happen to see this after the fact when it's not live, feel free to do the same, and I will answer back for you, usually within a day or two. Usually how I roll.
I am so sorry about that. I think my hotel Wi-Fi might have just gone out a little bit.
You're good. You're talking about all those trades your buddies are sending you that people are just fantasy booking. Did anybody, trade you to Japan or anything like that?
No, nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy, but it's definitely a lot. People like to be their Twitter GMs and whatnot, and more power to them. But it's becomes a reality sometimes.
I know there's a lot of PR training that's done by teams. Is that one of those topics that are discussed of like, just so you know, don't take it personal, but you might find out about a transaction or a trade or getting waived. You might find out about that on social media. We're going to try to get to you, but words leak out. And so be prepared for that. Is that something that either, teams discuss with players or your agency lets you know, like, you know what, in 2025, this is just kind of how it goes?
I think it's kind of understood with players that people are going to find things out, things are going to get leaked. Obviously, it's nobody's fault that things get leaked, and it just kind of is what it is. You try to be a professional about it. Just kind of go with it and handle your business.
You go from Hudson Valley to Spokane, so pretty extreme East Coast versus West Coast. Have you noticed the difference between, I don't want to say the passion, but the intensity of East Coast ballparks in the minors versus some of the West Coast ones you experienced in the Northwest League?
I've seen very similar fan turnouts. I would say Spokane, we got some great games, some great crowds. It's not too big of a difference. I would say if anything, there's a lot more card collectors in the Northeast. Like a little bit more like come like get you to sign your card after a game, or waiting by the bus, things like that. But honestly, not too much of a difference. The weather's great in both places. It's beautiful, especially the Pacific Northwest. I really enjoyed being up there. We would go on the Spokane River every off day, go kind of wait around, put chairs in the river, stuff like that. Super cold, not used to it being from Texas, but the mountains were awesome. We drove to Eugene, Oregon, so got to see a bunch of cool sights on the way. Saw a couple huge mountains. I'm completely blanking on their names right now, but some volcanoes. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Pacific Northwest is it's really the only place that when you come out to Colorado, you debut and talk with plenty of people. Probably even Rockies Fest next year. I imagine we'll see you. But the only place that people from Colorado have any reverence for is the Pacific Northwest. California is sort of a horizontal move. There's other places that you could argue are as nice, but there's something about the Pacific Northwest that really is appealing to folks in Colorado.
I've heard that the area around Coors Stadium is beautiful as well, and obviously I've seen some pictures. So I'm definitely excited to get out there. Hopefully, maybe this off season I'll go check out the stadium or something like that. But I've heard really great things about the stadium in the area, so I like seeing the mountains.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, there's places from the ballpark that you can look out and actually see the mountains or the Flatirons in Boulder, and hopefully when you do come, you don't get snow. That we got snow last time there was Fan Fest, but there's over 300 days of sun, so I don't need to sell you on it. The weather in Colorado is pretty fantastic, and that's a great segue to how you pitched in Spokane. Was pretty darn fantastic. 7 starts. You never allowed more than 2 runs in a start. Your first month was about as best as you could have hoped for. Northwest League Pitcher of the Month. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what was going well there? I mean, it was going well also with the Yankees. It's going well there for Hudson Valley. Even saw an uptick in strikeouts for you just a little bit. And I was surprised to learn that the hitters in the Northwest League are actually about a year and a half older. They're more experienced hitters than the ones that you had previously faced. And yet you saw yourself getting a few more strikeouts. What did you pinpoint that for?
I think just the situation being what it was. I was a little bit more, stress-free, just going out there and trying to show my stuff, try to show the Rockies why they traded for me, I guess. And I also added a curveball, which I started throwing when I joined the Rockies. So we spent some time down here in Arizona, just taking a look at it in the lab. And I had thrown it in early spring training with the Yankees, but ended up kind of setting it aside for a while, just focusing on my 3-pitch mix going into the start of the season. And I had started throwing maybe a couple bullpens with it, trying to incorporate it back in. But my first time throwing it in a game was in Spokane, and I think it just added another dimension to my arsenal. Being able to add that in at a not too high of a usage rate, probably about 10 to 15%, but it's adding a more vertical a more vertical drop, and it's kind of playing off my fastball, but also allowing my slider to be open there too, which obviously is what I want to go to a majority of the time. But just adding another layer of depth and taking a little bit more speed off of it, which is something that I didn't really have in my arsenal.
Yeah, Luke in the chat wants to know, what do you feel like is your best pitch? And if it's the slider, how would you describe the slider? Is it more of a sweeper? Would it be like a slurve, more traditional slider?
The technical term is gyro slider. So creating gyroscopic spin on it. So it's pretty much looks like a washing machine. So it's not actually moving very much horizontally or vertically. The ideal, if any type of like TrackMan metrics, the ideal is at 0 and 0. So it's pretty much just a drop ball. And I've been throwing that since my junior year of high school. So got a lot of feel for it. And that type of slider, since it is more of just the depth pitch and you can throw it with some more velocity, location becomes very important and becomes what makes it effective, not so much the movement. So just having that comfortability that I've had since I've been throwing it for so long has been, I think, what allows it to be successful.
Yeah, that's great. And you're down there now in Scottsdale for Instructs, just getting there. I mean, how excited are you for the next couple of weeks? How long does it last exactly? And sort of what are your expectations or understandings for what's going to happen down there?
I'll be here for about 2 weeks until September 26th. So right now, just planning to play catch. We've got the instructional league going on, obviously, so I'll be out there at the games. Just meeting all these draft guys that just came in and a couple other guys who were either injured or they just wanted down here at Instructs. We did some PFPs and picks, and then a lot of meetings, just really getting to know this organization, which something I definitely wanted to do, putting a lot of names to faces, just really, really understanding what their philosophies are behind pitching, and also just organizationally wide. So that's the plan over these next couple of weeks. Just soak in as much as I can, and hopefully put on like 5 pounds. Try to eat as much as I can. Try to work. Try to lift. That's just get into my routine for the off season.
Yeah. How much did you end up losing from the start of spring to the end of the season? It's even if you're snacking, I know it can be hard for you guys to keep on that weight. How much was the weight loss?
I would say maybe about 10 pounds. It wavers week to week. Some weeks on the road, you don't have as much, maybe access to things to cook. And that's something that I was big on, especially in Tampa. I was lucky enough to have my same apartment from spring training into low A. So I had everything set up. When I'm home, I like to do a lot of meal prep. That was something I started in high school during COVID, just trying to figured I want to get big and I want to go to the MLB. So I probably should take my eating seriously, and I don't want it to taste bad. So started searching up, I sous vide steaks for my family, do all kinds of stuff. But that's when I can do that. That's kind of where I'm at my best. And during the season, you get on the road, 2-week road trips, DoorDash a lot, things happen.
Yeah, what's the sweet treat? Because you gotta allow yourself some breaks. I know Bretton Doyle enjoys the trolley worms once in a while here and there, so you gotta have a snack. What's your what's your vice when you do need to take a break from the clean eating?
I'm probably going to the grocery store and buying a pack of Toll House chocolate chip cookies, and I'm gonna take them home and I'm gonna bake them, and I might eat all of them. I'm not sure, but if I'm going to give myself a break, that's my go-to every time.
I'm learning you're patient. You don't want to buy something and then just immediately eat it in the car. You're like, all right, I can't wait to eat this in an hour.
Yeah, you got to give yourself time to want it.
That's a good thing.
Let the house feel like
before we get out of here, two random questions. Do you have a nickname? I was on the LSU site. I'm thinking every guy has weird nicknames. Some of them maybe are appropriate. Some of them, teammates say, and you say, don't mention that around my family. But any good nicknames that you think you'd like to stick, or ones you want to give yourself and you hope that they do stick?
I would say most guys just call me Griff. Just keep it short. That's kind of been one that's stuck a little bit, especially around baseball. Not really a huge nickname guy. I don't really think I have very many.
Yeah. And then you talked about a lot of the card collectors on the East Coast. More and more players are collecting their own cards, especially some of the rare ones. I had to look it up to see when your first card was, and there was one from Perfect Game back in 2021. I don't know if those are in packs of cards or what, but are you collecting your own cards? Is that something you could see yourself getting into, especially when that game used patch from your debut and you sign it? That's a one of one. Are any of those things something you might be interested in?
I would say I'm kind of interested adjacent. My dad likes the cards, so if I get a chance where a guy's asking me to sign some cards and maybe I can make a trade with him or make something happen like that to get my dad a card, I'll try to do that. Luckily, in Spokane, I had this guy. I'm blanking on his Instagram handle. I want to say it's Spo to the show, but he hooked me up with a one of one. It's actually the printing plate. It's like a metal printing plate of what they use to push the cards down onto. And I made a trade with him for one of my teammates let me get a bat, and I got a couple guys to sign it. And it was a pretty cool moment because I'm able to give that to my dad. And then I come home and I see he's got eBay packages sitting there with cards in them, and he enjoys it. So I enjoy getting them for him and trying to find some myself too.
I mean, he's just gonna start making his own cards. I mean, now that he's got the printing plate, look out, the basement's gonna be taken over. He's gonna make his own little set for you.
I mean, that might be the best way to do it, honestly. be the
That's
cheapest way.
awesome. Well, Griffin, thanks for joining us. I'm not sure how active you are on social media, but I know you're a communications major. So that future career when you retire in 20 years, who knows? It's good to get that stuff going now. Feel free to drop in your handle if you do want a little social media action.
Yeah, you can check me out on Instagram, Griffin Herring _Herring 22.
At Patrick D. Lyons, MLB on X and Blue Sky, and the Rockies Insider channel over on YouTube. Griffin, I appreciate the momentum you've provided me with here today. But unfortunately, that kind of momentum, just like the next day's starting pitcher, is only as good as my next show. So, of course, I'll talk to you tomorrow.